Pam Bondi, America's chief lie enforcer, didn't do well before Congress. And now even conservatives are calling for her head because, well, she's a woman. And we know how much conservative Republicans appreciate women who bite back the way Pam Bondi does. Pam Bondi was elected twice. Let's look at that. This is how I survive. That's Photoshop. That's, some people have hobbies. That's what I do. I spoke to Jesus, Pam, and this is what he's going to do to you. Trust me on this. I speak to Jesus all the time, and that's what he's going to do to you. Anyway, Pam Bondi was elected twice as Florida's Attorney General. When several state attorneys general formed a consortium to file a civil lawsuit against Trump University, Bondi was about to go in, and then she bowed out just days after receiving a campaign donation from the chancellor and dean of Trump University, Donald J. Trump. Yes, there was once a Trump University because Donald J. Trump is so smart. The J stands for genius. That's how smart he is. I've been doing that joke since 2015. That's my favorite joke. Bondi's first term as Florida Attorney General began in 2011. That was 2 years after Jeffrey Epstein was released from a Florida jail after arranging that sweetheart deal to only serve time for soliciting an underage prostitute. Now, we all know he really didn't go to jail. He was allowed to go home. During the day, he only had to sleep in the jail. That was the sweetheart deal that Ken Starr, the Whitewater prosecutor, that was Jeffrey Epstein's lawyer back then, Alan Dershowitz, Epstein's lawyer, they arranged the sweetheart deal. That was the deal. They convinced this guy, Alexander Acosta, the federal prosecutor in Florida, they convinced him not to lock up Jeffrey Epstein for life, even though there was enough evidence back then to put him away. But Alexander Acosta agreed not to prosecute. Promises made, promises kept. He ended up serving as Trump's labor secretary. And then when this sweetheart deal came to light around the time that Epstein was found dead, Alexander Acosta, labor secretary, was out of a job. So let's remember it. Let's review. Alan Dershowitz was Jeffrey Epstein's attorney back then. He helped arrange the sweetheart deal. And here is the great Alan Dershowitz defending Donald Trump during Trump's first impeachment. Kenneth Starr, the Whitewater prosecutor who went after Bill Clinton because Bill Clinton lied about oral sex. Well, Ken Starr, a few years later, was Jeffrey Epstein's attorney back in 2008. And here is Ken Starr serving as Donald Trump's attorney during Trump's first impeachment trial. And here's Pam Bondi. Back then, she had just left her post as Florida's Attorney General, and she served as Donald Trump's lawyer, too, during his first impeachment trial. So, unlike Alan Dershowitz and Ken Starr, Pam Bondi wasn't also Jeffrey Epstein's defense lawyer. No, she was way more important to Jeffrey Epstein than a defense attorney. She was Florida's Attorney General when nearly 200 of Epstein's victims in Florida began suing Jeffrey Epstein in civil court. Why civil court and not criminal court? Because the Florida Attorney General, Pam Bondi, wouldn't bring charges against Epstein despite the overwhelming evidence being presented by lawyers for the 200 victims down in Florida. Pam Bondi was Florida's Attorney General in 2018 when the Miami Herald broke that big story of 80 victims of Epstein's abuse. She was the Attorney General. Her office did absolutely nothing, which is kind of surprising because this is a commercial Pam Bondi aired when she ran for re-election in 2014 as Florida's Attorney General. Here is Pam Bondi in 2014 asking Florida's voters to reelect her as Attorney General.
Florida ranks third nationally in calls for help for human trafficking, where young women and children are enslaved and abused. I knew we needed all hands on deck. Businesses and hospitals to spot it, our great law enforcement to stop it, and tougher penalties to punish it. We're taking on Medicaid fraud, pill mills, gangs, and more, and I'll fight to put human trafficking monsters where they belong, behind bars.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
She's going to go after human traffickers, unless they're Jeffrey Epstein. Well, as you know, several of Epstein's victims were in the room when Bondi testified before the House Judiciary Committee. Here is one of those victims being interviewed on NBC News.
I was a little embarrassed to see that she couldn't say sorry to us.
And I'll fight to put human trafficking monsters where they belong, behind bars.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
More from Epstein's victims on how the Department of Justice failed to redact their names.
She couldn't apologize what she did to us, what her department did to us, right? It's like you had one job, was to redact our names, to respect our privacy.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
More from Epstein's victims on why they think it might not have been an accident that their names weren't redacted.
But yet you carefully took the time to redact all these powerful rich men.
Why?
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.
Why did you redact the names of the rich men but not the victims? Well, one of the victims says she knows why.
Is it your department that can't keep up with, are you guys being sloppy?
Maybe, or...
And then I think we all realize now, oh, you guys really wanted to silence us. And you thought that you could scare us by putting our names out there. And to be honest with you, we've been through worse. This is nothing for us. If anything, this encourages us to speak more and not to be silenced. So we like to set the record here. If there are more files to be released, which we hope that these files that are released, they need to be, the men that are, the perpetrators that we did know about and that are out there now, they need to be investigated, and we cannot fail to do that as the United States of America. We have other countries that are taking action in this, and we are doing absolutely nothing, and it is infuriating.
So they redacted the names of the predators, not the names of the victims. I played you the clip of Thomas Massey showing a memo written to Pam Bondi from the victim's lawyers saying, here's a list of names, please redact them. And what did they do? They released that memo, the list of the names. They redacted one name on that memo. It was from the lawyer. So you tell me, is it an accident when it's that blatant? When you release the names of all the victims, but redact the lawyer's name? You tell me if that isn't a message to the victims to keep your mouth shut.
Pam Bondi, our Attorney General.